All right, everyone, welcome back. Please take your seats. We have established, I think we was 27 online, and we more than make up the remainder here in person. I love having these yellow lanyards, so easy to just see and count. So if you could just take your seats, we're going to be moving or continuing on with the motion regarding the location of the 2024 annual general meeting. We do have quorum. Sorry? No. So we left, I am going to ask, because we did try to pass it with unanimous consent. We did not have unanimous consent, so I'm not sure if that was because someone wished to speak, discuss further. So I will open the floor and online as well. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak, and I will recognize the speaker at, good catch, at microphone number 2.
Vince Van Weringen from Region 7. First, Mr. Chair, if I may address to in front of the Assembly as well. I know we all have many questions, but according to the standing rules, let's try and keep to the 2 minutes so that we can get through more questions. I know many of us are very passionate and have a lot to say, so I will also try to do that. 2 questions, 2 minutes. Mr. Speaker, you also mentioned that when answering questions, we'll try to keep those to that limit as well. I would ask for some clarification from you, Mr. Chair, regarding, I know we have timelines, they're tentative, they're there. When we get to the point where, Mr. Chair, you're saying we need to move forward, I would ask that maybe the Assembly makes the decision, or you put it forth to the Assembly to complete that discussion, rather than just kind of saying we need to move forward in lieu of time, we're going to end this. Because there is a lot of people that have a lot to say, and it is our Assembly to voice our concerns. So thank you very much. In regards to the presented proposed resolution for the AGM, my only question that came through is on the subjects underneath the dates. It says in person. It doesn't state hybrid. As Madam President stated, inflation has gone through the roof. Cost of hotels, cost of travel, stuff like that. I guarantee you 80% of people from the north won't be able to make it to Vancouver in person. Can we add hybrid in there just to make sure that it's there so our communities know that you can still attend hybrid? That would be my amendment.
Thank you for that. I was just wanting to clarify, because I know in the past we've passed resolutions that mandate that we stream or broadcast them, but that's correct. We don't have that yet where we've mandated that it has to be a hybrid availability. So I take that. I'm going to turn it over to our clerk if we can look at some potential wording that hopefully satisfies.
So I think that the wording that would satisfy those concerns would be in the second bullet point after in person, if we could put comma with a hybrid, or sorry, with an online participation option. No, second bullet point. That's the third. Online participation option. So I think that satisfies that we'll have a hybrid if everything is good. If we can't be in person, then we'll go fully virtual. Do you wish to move?
I wish to move.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? I recognize
Lisa Smith, Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on that? I do have someone online. Oh, hands down. I'll just give them a second if they're just so that it's clear. All right, well, that's right. I mean, I'm hearing some of the other conversations in the room as they go, so if we hear some conversation online, that's totally fair game. All right, so is there any discussion with regards to that? Not seeing anyone come to the microphones. Anything online? No, I'm going to look and see if we have unanimous consent to add this portion to the motion. If there is anyone wishing to object, please raise your hand, whether in person or online. Just give it a second. I know sometimes it's tricky finding the right button when you're participating online. Not seeing anything in the room. It's confirmation, nothing online. Okay, so the motion to amend passes. The wording with an online participation option is now included in the motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion as amended? Not seeing anyone in the room. Anyone online? I'm not seeing anyone there. Okay, so given that, we will proceed with the vote. This is something that can be done by unanimous consent, sorry. We'll see if we can do that given that there have been differences since the last time we tried unanimous consent. Is there anyone objecting? President Caron, was that a wave or? I will ask if we have unanimous consent. If there's anyone objecting, please raise your hand, both in person or online. And this is, just so we're clear, is the motion on the screen, or the portion of it on the screen. Seeing no objection, still nothing online, the motion as amended passes. Next year's AGM will be September 20 to 22nd in the Lower Mainland with an online participation option. All right, we're moving on. Resolution number 1. I'm going to turn it over to our clerk. He's going to read resolution number 1. People can follow along, please, if you wish, at pages 67, 68, and 69. And I'll turn it over to our clerk, and then I will invite our mover and seconder.
Resolution number 1. Evolution and reorganization of the Ministry of Citizenship. This will affect the Citizenship Act. This was submitted by the MNGA via the MNBC Board of Directors. It was submitted to the AGM clerk on March 5th, 2023, and will require a majority vote to adopt. Whereas the Ministry of Citizenship has undergone and continues to undergo substantial changes to provide better service to citizens, and many current practices do not align with the language in the Citizenship Act. Legislative provisions require vigilant review to ensure that they are correctly stated, and in the event an error or inconsistency is discovered, the error must be rectified as a housekeeping matter. Be it resolved that the following changes to the Citizenship Act be made. Strike definition 2.5 because it is not used in any current MNBC legislation. Strike definition 2.9 and insert the following in its place. 2.9, registry means the data and systems used by the Ministry of Citizenship to gather and store information about Métis citizens. Strike definition 2.12 and insert the following in its place. 2.12, a chartered community is a Métis community that has entered into a community governance charter agreement with the MNBC. Strike definition 2.21 and insert the following in its place. Registration means citizenship in the MNBC. And strike all instances of the word membership and insert registration in its place throughout the Act. Strike definition 2.23 and replace all instances of Métis community in the Act with chartered community. Strike the word standardized from definition 2.27 so that the title is provincial citizenship card. Strike definition 2.31 and insert the following in its place. Citizenship authority. The authority means the office in the Ministry of Citizenship which processes, assesses, ensures charter community acceptance is approved within the required time frame and issues citizenship cards. The authority consists of the Executive Director of Citizenship, the Director of Citizenship, and the Citizenship Assessment Manager. Reorder and renumber all definitions so that they are in alphabetical and numerical order. Replace all instances of community and chartered Métis community with chartered community. Strike the words as a Métis citizen, and the second instance of the words is proof that the applicant is of Métis ancestry in Article 3.1 because these phrases are redundant. Delete the current Article 4.2 and insert the following in its place. 4.2, upon approval of registration, the Citizenship Authority shall issue a provincial citizenship card recognizing the applicant as a Métis citizen. Replace all instances of registrar with citizenship authority in the other definitions and Articles 3 to 6, 7.10, 7.11, 8, and 10 to 13 inclusive. Strike the word 16 in Article 4.3 and insert 19 in its place. Replace all instances of registrar with Ministry of Citizenship in Articles 7.1 to 7.9 inclusive, 7.12, 7.13, and 9. Strike the current Article 7.2 and insert the following in its place. The Ministry of Citizenship shall collect and maintain the information necessary to determine registration. The information to be collected is listed on the MNBC citizenship application package and updated from time to time. Insert the word shall following the words Ministry of Citizenship and strike the word central before the word registry in Article 7.5 so that it shall read, the Ministry of Citizenship shall cause the registry to be kept safely by administrative, physical, and technological safeguards that are reasonable and consistent with this Act. Strike Articles 8.1 to 8.3 and insert the following as a new 8.0 in their place. 8.0, the MNBC shall establish a citizenship authority which shall maintain and provide provincial citizenship application forms and provincial citizenship cards to applicants or chartered communities when consent to release of personal information forms have been signed and submitted by the applicant. In Article 9.1, strike the phrase retained and or employed by the MNBC so that it will read as follows. The Ministry of Citizenship shall be required to follow all policies and procedures developed by the MNBC and shall. Strike the word that in Article 11.4 and insert then in its place so that the first sentence reads 11.4, the parties shall be provided no less than 2 weeks' notice of the date on which the appeal will be heard. In Article 12, replace the first instance of registry office with Ministry of Citizenship and the second instance with Citizenship Authority so that Article 12 will read, 12, the expenses and costs associated with the maintenance of the Ministry of Citizenship, including the remuneration for the Office of the Citizenship Authority and the Registry Office staff, shall be established by the MNBC based on the availability of fiscal resources. I'd like to also add that on pages 71 and 72, we have a chart that explains the proposed changes much more further than the resolution, which I understand can be a little confusing as is read.
Thank you very much. And so at this time, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder, and I'll recognize the speaker at microphone 2.
So thank you, Susie Hooper, Northwest Regional Director, Troy River Community Member. I would like to put this motion on the floor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Jeff Crozier, Rocky Mountain Métis Association. I'll second it.
Thank you very much. So resolution 1 is on the floor. I will invite Susie Hooper to speak to the matter first. Oh, sorry, just a moment.
Actually, we're going to have citizenship staff and Colleen provide a little bit of explainer before we get into debate.
Okay. Do you see? Sorry, just before we get to you, Minister Hooper, we're going to have some of our wonderful staff within the registry to provide some information, some background, some explanation to it, to these resolutions, and to advise just some of that background information. I'll invite them to come up now.
Hi, I'm Denise Jager. I'm the Director of Citizenship. So just to provide some clarity to this resolution. We'd like to remove the word registry from the Citizenship Act and replace it with the word citizenship. We're not registering people for school. We don't need a registrar, which is one of the reasons we want to kind of change that wording and move, just kind of clean up the Citizenship Act and have it consistent. We've used many different terms throughout the Citizenship Act, and this resolution speaks to kind of that housekeeping piece of using consistent language throughout. And then towards the Citizenship Authority, instead of having one registrar who is the absolute authority, we want to have 3 people for that position as a Citizenship Authority. So the Citizenship Authority as a collective would then have the responsibility of approving citizens. And right now we have just under 7,000 applications in the queue. So with having 3 people approve our applications, it helps speed up the process and make it more streamlined. Whereas one person as the registrar definitely slows down the process. And then I want to pass it over to Alex, who's our Quality Assurance Manager, just to add a little bit more context.
Hello, everyone. Alex Chicard, Quality Assurance Manager in the Ministry of Citizenship. Denise did a great job of explaining the purpose and rationale behind why we are looking to change to Citizenship Authority. The quality assurance entity, if you have heard in the Citizenship Town Hall that we held on the first day, is also separate from this authority, so that we will have 2 sets of checks and balances, if you will, to maintain the most proper and standardized procedures for confirming applicant citizenship. With this authority, we really want to, what it boils down to is really want to speed up the process and get cards in applicants' hands. So through this, along with our quality assurance measures that are separate from this motion, but you heard of in our Citizenship Town Hall, we really believe that this is the right way forward for the nation and supporting the Ministry of Citizenship here.
Thank you. And perhaps I'll just ask you if you want to have a seat in case any speakers raise a question that you might be able to answer. This time I will turn it to our mover, Susie Hooper.
So I'm speaking in favor of this motion, quite obviously. We debated it a lot at our last MNGA, and the outcome was that we have to come into this century. We need to update our Citizenship Act. We need to do a fair bit of housekeeping, cleaning up the words, such as Denise said, the word registrar. We spoke to it yesterday, the 6,000 plus applications in queue. So we need to help fix that bottleneck, and it makes sense not to have one person have the authority to control of that, so put it in 3 hands. And we spoke yesterday at the town hall, and I hope some got to see it, which I was very grateful of, the first town hall that we've had for citizenship in person. And we're focusing on 3 priorities, so I speak in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll turn to Mr. Crozier as our seconder if you wish to, any comments?
Jeff Crozier, Rocky Mountain Métis Association. I just, being at the MNGA and us discussing it, like Susie said, it just cleans everything up. I'm all forward. A lot of the frustrations that we've been feeling in the last 8 months, we're saying, how come nothing is being done? Well, now we're doing it, and it's getting cleaned up, and yay. So let's do it. I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. I'll recognize the next speaker at microphone 2.
Good old Susie. I nor can speak for or against it at this moment, but I do have some clarity that would need to be had for some members that have asked. This resolution changes the language. Registered to Citizenship Authority proposes the authority consists of the Executive Director of Citizenship and Director of Citizenship, right? And the Assessment Manager. It removes the reference to communities issuing cards. So areas of concern that have come up is really, how is the integrity of the citizenship approval process protected? Where is the accountability to the citizens, such as how many applications received, how many approved, how many rejected each quarter? Who is the Citizenship Authority accountable to? That's a big question that came up. Some of the proposed amendments, some of the wording was a concern, and how will communities, the grassroots community presidents issuing cards, how are they going to be able to provide input before and after an individual is granted citizenship? And what weight will be given to the community's concerns? So a few questions, but you know what, if we can get them all out of the way, I don't got to stand back up, right?
Okay. Thank you for those questions. I will do my best to remember them, but I might, yeah, thank you. So to the first point, the reason we want to have a citizenship authority that is more than one person is to expedite the process, for one, because one person can only do so many things in a day. And if you have 3 people doing them, then you can do 3 times as much. But at the same time, when you're approving citizenship cards and you only have one person that checks the genealogy, if there's a mistake, it's hard to catch. But if now the way that we do this, as Terry explained yesterday, is for an approval, 2 of our assessment team needs to approve the process, and then it goes to the Citizenship Authority. And the same if an application isn't approved, then 3 of the assessment team has said this applicant is not eligible for citizenship, and then it goes to the Citizenship Authority. And so we want to make, as part of that objectively verifiable process, having 3 people in the Citizenship Authority helps verify that. So if there is a discrepancy for whatever reason, you have 3 people that can make that decision together so that we have more quality assurance in each of those decisions. And if there, if something along the way needs to be rechecked, you have 3 people to go back and come to that conclusion. And then as far as you were saying about knowing each quarter how many applications were in the process, how many have been approved, how many have been rejected, that's not information the Ministry of Citizenship has ever given. And one of the reasons that the Ministry, well, for many reasons, but we've never had the capacity in the past to know that number accurately. So now, just, within the last few months, as this new system has come on board, we are just now having the capacity to know that accurately. And definitely, as I'm sure you heard from our town hall yesterday, we definitely need more capacity. And then I forgot your third. Oh.
You have the capacity, maybe those reports could start in the future. But the main ones were really the community's ability to, the removal of communities issuing cards from the Citizenship Act. The process, correct me if I'm wrong, President, I'm sorry, but was someone would apply to MNBC, they would need to become part of a charter community, the charter community would then issue them a card, and then that member would then become a part of MNBC. So with the removal of that.
Oh, yes, so that process has not changed at all. Okay. So the community acceptance process is not changed by this resolution at all.
Okay. And then the only other one would be, if just your personal opinion or the opinion of MNBC, how would the communities be able to provide their input to the granted of citizenships and whether or not?
Can you clarify what you mean by input to the
So the question I got was, how will communities be able to provide their input before or after an individual is granted citizenship? And what weight will be given to the community's concerns that someone is not Métis?
So currently the process is, as we've explained, so once an application is complete, it goes to our citizenship assessment, and it's assessed by a first reviewer and then a second reviewer. If they both agree, then it progresses to the Citizenship Authority if that's approved today. Currently the process is it goes to the registrar. And then again, if it's deemed that from those two that it's not eligible for citizenship, it goes to a third. So in this objectively verifiable process, the process where the communities are involved wouldn't change. So are you,
If the process of the communities doesn't change, I think that was the concern, is that by changing this and removing the terms, that they were worried communities may not be able to have their input heard, or if it would not be there, so.
yeah, if the communities disagreed with the decision, that if an applicant disagrees with the decision, it goes to the Senate.
Okay.
Yeah. But the process, but just for clarity, the current process for communities is the same.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and I did hear a point of order at microphone number 4, yes?
We have 2 minutes each, right? Thank you.
Yes. I next have President Bremner at microphone number 3.
Joy Bremner, the leader of the Mid-Island Métis Nation. I'm actually would like to speak to the G, strike definition 2.31 and insert the following in its place. And again, what it states here is that MNBC, Ministry of Citizenship Rule, once processed, assessed, will ensure that the charter community acceptance is approved. One of the things that occurs in our office, we have a stack of almost 2 inches of paperwork. MNBC has approved citizenship, and those individuals have not, through our continued attempt to communicate with them, come to our office to get community acceptance, which is our own process. And then one of the other things over the last month, we've had 3 individuals, when we phone as soon as we get that letter from MNBC, and they say, why should I do that? My card from MNBC has already arrived. And so that's a little concerning that we didn't even have the opportunity to do community acceptance with them, and they already have their citizenship card from MNBC, so they have no intention of then coming to the community. And at the town hall the other night or morning, it was an exceptional, presentation by the staff of the registry around all of that. But again, some of those concerns still remain with us, and it is concerning if, they're refusing community acceptance. What can we do? How MNBC itself then simply sends out the card early or within the 90 days. And so those individuals never are coming to community. And that is where they receive personalized services and programming and all of that locally. And so it is an important piece as far as my community and the board feel in terms of our being able to give community acceptance. So I think that will, as we went through the town hall, I believe there was being presented an opportunity going forward. We may have further discussions around that. But I did want to raise the concern about when we receive that letter, some of those individuals have already received a card from MNBC, which is a challenge. And we're not quite sure how that happened. Overeager staff, perhaps, but maybe we might want to pull that back is my only suggestion.
Thank you, President Bremner. The next speaker I have is Sylvia DeRocher.
Hi, everyone. Sylvia DeRocher from the Prince George Métis Community Association. I have a concern from one of our members, and I will just read it out to you. This member does not like the change to citizenship authority. It is a registry, an anthology, or a depository. Authority means power to give orders to do something, such as give our information out without consent. So we would just like clarification on how safe our information is when speaking to the authority part of it. Thank you.
Great question. So The authority portion of it is only pertaining to the authorization of citizenship. So when in the review process of the application that was submitted, the authority is just the catch-all term to have an entity for those 3 individuals. It's not pertaining to giving away any of your personal information or rights. So only pertaining to the citizenship assessment process. As for, we referenced it a bit in the citizenship town hall as well, but our new citizen relation management system, the CRM we've been referencing, is the most robust and secure system that MNBC has ever had for the personal information of our citizens. We created it and we own it, so there's no third party that operates with the data. The data is all kept internally safe and secure within MNBC servers. Not to get too technical on it, but we also have our own virtual private networks that you would have to have access to even reach our personal information and the information of the citizens. So it's as secure as it's ever been, and the citizenship authority reference is just for the citizenship assessment process.
Thank you. We next have an online speaker, Shirley Goulet. Go ahead, Shirley. I think, sure, she's unmuted now, or she has to unmute? Okay, Shirley, you just have to unmute, and then you can put your comment. There you go. I think we can hear you now. No, looks like you're unmuted. We can't hear you. Sorry, Shirley, I think we lost you there. The last I heard was if a community president does not sign off on the paper, and I lost you at that point. If you can continue there. Sorry, Shirley, you're breaking up quite a bit there. I'm not sure what assistance or what. Oh, what I would suggest, Shirley, if you could type in your question or your comment, we'll go over to the next speaker in the room, and then once your comment is typed up, we'll have it read out, and then that question or comment addressed. So if you could just type that in, obviously we've been having some technical difficulties, including a whole power outage here at one point, so it might be some gremlins in the system still. So if you could type it out, it would be great, and then I'll recognize our speaker at microphone number 2.
Hello, Vanessa Masters, Region 2, Surrey Delta. I was wondering, I'm not speaking for or against this resolution, I'm just looking for clarification. Back to the Citizenship Authority, shifting from registrar to Citizenship Authority. If you could clarify how it will work with the three individuals. Are they all three signing off individually, or is it consensus through the three of them that they would all then kind of be the ones signing off on citizenship? The way you had kind of presented it was that this would help with addressing the backlog of all of the citizenships in the queue right now, meaning 3 people are better than 1. However, I just wanted to, if you could clarify whether the 3 are signing off individually, so you split, if there's 6 people in the 6,000 applications in the queue, that they're all signing off on, let me do the math right, 2,000 each. So if you could clarify that, thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Great question. So the Citizenship Authority, there would be one person to sign off. One of the Citizenship Authority would sign off on the final review for citizenship. But it does give the means that if there is a case where they need to address it as a group, they could come to a consensus. That's why there's 3.
Again, just clarification. So then the executive director, director of citizenship, and citizenship assessment manager will all be signing off on citizenship applications individually, but as an authority together? Is that how you?
Yes. So for each citizenship application, one of those 3 people would sign off on the final review.
Thank you.
Do we have the typed comment or question yet? Okay, then I'll turn to our speaker here at microphone number 1.
Tanshe, hello. Dakota Count, Two Rivers Métis Society. If you look at the BERT in sections E and sections I, it notes that it wants to replace the all instances of Métis community and Métis charter community with just charter community. I want to know what effect this would have on benefiting the registry as a whole, because my concern with this is that it may become too vague and that this could potentially be used in a different manner in the future. But I do stand in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. So the wording change there is simply housekeeping for consistency throughout the Act.
Sorry, and also to clarify a bit more about the wording change as well. Chartered community is defined in the Act as one of the 39 chartered communities that have entered in a agreement with MNBC to be part of MNBC, but we also use the term chartered community in our Constitution as well. So it's to make very clear that it is the communities that have joined MNBC. So I'm going to be optimistic, 39 and growing.
Thank you. I'm going to turn. I think we've got the typed question, so I'll turn it over to Callum.
From Shirley Goulet, if a community president does not sign off, what happens? The answer was, if it still hasn't been signed after 90 days, the member is still accepted.
If they can add clarification, we'll definitely add more to depth to it. But the current Citizenship Act legislation is that if it is not signed off on within 90 days, that MNBC issues the citizenship card.
Thank you. We have another online, Steve Arnett. Go ahead, Steve. Yes, we can. Thank you very much. The next person I've got is Mr. Jobin.
Hi, Travis Jobin, Métis Nation, Columbia River Society. I'm speaking in favor of this resolution. After going through it at the General Assembly, you know, I think it's one of the number one complaints we get as leaders in our communities is people waiting for citizenship. And I really think that this resolution aims to increase the number of cards going out and decrease the number of complaints we're getting from our citizens. And just, I guess, one kind of point of clarification, I think that came up at our General Assembly is that the Citizenship Authority is about empowering existing staff members that are there, correct? And we're not increasing the team or anything like that. That's it.
So currently, all three of these positions exist, so we aren't increasing the team or the staff currently for that. These are three positions that exist.
Thank you. We've got a follow-up, and I'm not seeing anyone else in the room, from Shirley. And so we'll try again, Shirley, try online if you can unmute yourself. Hopefully any thunderstorms overhead or anything is going to make it a little easier. Go ahead, Shirley. We can, and hopefully it'll continue. All right, thank you for that. We're just going to have someone speak to that or to address that. Mr. Beaker.
So, and thank you for the question, and I believe that the context behind that is around the criteria for Métis Nation citizenship acceptance. You need objectively verifiable genealogy, you need acceptance in a contemporary Métis community, and you have to self-identify as Métis. So I think that the question is that if the contemporary charter community doesn't sign your acceptance, how can that second step be satisfied? And it is a good question because the Citizenship Act specifically states in Article 3.2, which is on page 103, is that the registrar may issue the applicant notification of community acceptance not exceeding 90 days. So when that clause was accepted in the Citizenship Act, the nation made a decision that if a president does not sign the community acceptance letter within 90 days, citizenship is granted. So the local community, but also the larger community as MNBC made a decision saying that, you know, if these citizenship letters are not signed within this manner, citizenship is granted, we have granted it, thereby, in my opinion of reading that is your community acceptance. So it is a backstop, but it has been decided by Métis Nation British Columbia that is acceptable.
Thank you, Mr. Beaker. I recognize the speaker at microphone number 2.
Just call question.
Who are you?
Walter Minalt. Call question.
Thank you. Question has been called. This is a resolution, so my favorite 2 letters don't apply here. So we will need a vote. The vote required for approval is a majority. And so if we can get that prepared, then I'll turn it over to Mr. Beaker.
We have the thumbs up. So voting is live in the room and online in Zoom. So if you are in favor of the resolution, please press 1 or A. If you are opposed, press 2 or B. And if you are abstaining, press C. Oh.
Try again, and it's always the last one that you press if there was a mistake, so.
Okay, hold. Okay, thank you, everyone. There was a hiccup in the voting software in the middle of voting. We have reset voting, and it is now open in the room. So I'd like to confirm that voting is now live in the room. Okay, now you may vote. Ten seconds. If you have not voted, please do so now. Voting is now closed. We have the final results. 124 in favor, 19 opposed, 6 abstentions.
I want to thank our registry staff, and they're going to stay for the next one because there's some other ones. But we're going to start right on to resolution number 2. I'm going to turn it over to our clerk to read out the resolution, and then we may have some more comments, some context provided, and then we'll look for a mover and seconder.
Resolution number 2, subject, protecting Métis citizens and the citizenship process. This will affect the Citizenship Act and the Senate Act. This was submitted through the MNGA via the MNBC Board of Directors to the AGM clerk on March 5th, 2023, and will require a majority vote to approve. Whereas the Constitution defines Métis as a person who self-identifies as Métis, is of historic Métis Nation ancestry, is distinct from other Aboriginal peoples, and is accepted by the Métis Nation, the Citizenship Act authorizes the registrar to determine whether a person is entitled to be registered as a citizen and to determine whether a registered citizen is found to be ineligible during an audit or review, and challenges to a person's Métis citizenship by someone other than the registrar, I guess now Citizenship Authority, is contrary to the provisions of self-identification essential to citizenship and the role of the Citizenship Authority. Be it resolved that Article 11 be struck from the Citizenship Act, current Articles 12 and 13 in the Citizenship Act be renumbered accordingly, in the new 12.4, previously 13.4 of the Citizenship Act, change the words Article 12 to Article 11, And subject to approval of A above, Article 8.1K be struck from the Senate Act.
Thank you. I'll look at this time for a mover and seconder, and then we'll have some comments from the registry staff. I recognize the speaker at microphone number 2.
Thank you, Susie Hooper, Northwest Regional Director, Tri River Community Member, and I put this motion on the floor.
Thank you, and I'll look for a seconder at microphone 2.
Sean Davern, Provincial Youth Chair. I'll second that.
Thank you. And before I turn back to Director Hooper, I will open it up to our staff for comments.
Thank you. So, citizenship is granted through an objectively verifiable process. So once the applicant has gone through citizenship assessment and then a final review by the Registrar of Citizenship Authority, that process is complete by allowing a citizen to challenge someone else's citizenship. We're undermining that authority, and we are saying that our registry is essentially incorrect. So if we trust the registry, and this is the foundation of our people, and we have finished this process, we've objectively verified that each of these people is a citizen, there should be no means to challenge that. And if a citizen has completed the process and the citizen or the applicant has disagrees with the decision of the registry, they have the means to appeal to the Senate. But we need to make sure that the Métis Nation is the one who decides who our citizens are. We are the authority, and this is how we have strength in our registry and strength in our nation. If we start undermining the strength and the process, then that leads to other problems. I think this is really key, that we make sure that our authority is, that we trust the objectively verifiable process. And I'll pass to Alex.
Just a smaller portion to add on in the same reference for protecting individuals' personal information. Article 11 would infringe on individuals' privacy rights for providing said person's citizenship information, first name, last name, other identifiable criteria to the person requesting it under Article 11. So MNBC must ensure that we're not stepping over the line of the legal boundaries when it comes to individuals' personal information.
Thank you. And at that, I'll turn to our mover, Director Hooper.
So I speak in favor of this motion. Denise, Alex, thank you very much for your clarification of a lot of this. It's very important that we don't challenge each other. We have a verifiable registration citizenship team, and I have faith and I value them and all the hard work they're doing. I don't want somebody coming up to challenging my Métis citizenship, my history, my ancestors who are in the room here today. The same as I wouldn't somebody to come and challenge my Canadian citizenship. This has to pass, in my opinion, and it's another step forward for our nation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll next an opportunity for our seconder, Sean Davern.
Hi there, Sean Davern, Provincial Youth Chair. I wanted to second this motion because Métis Youth British Columbia recently just went through a lateral kindness training with some representatives from Tecumloops on the day before yesterday. And we talked about decolonizing our Indigenous government. And I really believe that this is a great way to do that, because lateral violence is what Canada wants. And in getting rid of this, we are decolonizing our Constitution. So, or not Constitution, our Electoral Act. But yes, thank you.
Thank you. Just before the next speaker, before we do have someone, already online, Steve Arnett, and then it'll be Mr. Briggett, number 4. So, Mr. Arnett, you can unmute yourself, and it's your turn. Thank you very much. Our next speaker at microphone number 4.
Yeah, Gary Bigger, Métis citizen. I'm speaking against this resolution, and the reason why, we're trying to protect our Section 35 rights here. Remember that. The registers, there's been issues in the past. They haven't got them all cleaned up yet. How many people in the last 4 years has their cards been removed from them? And I know some numbers. Also, a friend of mine, he had a card for 10 years. Then he went and got a good lawyer and ended up with his First Nations status card. His kids ended up with their, after a Supreme Court case, his kids ended up with their status cards. Their grandmother's Métis, but they identify as First Nations now, but they all had Métis cards. Their grandkids couldn't get a Métis card. They put their applications in. They couldn't get the card because their grandfather and their dad were status Indians, but their grandmother is Métis. This is a really dangerous stepping stone we're going here. Right now, I don't know where everybody's been. Watched the TV for the last year. So many people are claiming to be Métis and they're getting caught that they're not. And we're going to pass a resolution that says, come on in. I'm about Section 35 rights. Harvesting, that's it. And if we pass this resolution, there's no wonder the government don't want to talk to BC right now. It's a huge issue here. And if we pass this resolution the way it's done, you're going to set back 35 rights. And I'll be dead before we ever see anything, just because it's one resolution.
Thank you. I next have our speaker here at microphone number 2.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jaden, and I'm the Region 6 Métis Youth Representative. I would like to offer an amendment to this, and the reason being at D there, it says Article 8.1K. Upon turning to the Senate Act, you go there, and you find they have an Article 8 and an Article 8.1. Under Article 8, we have A through K, and Article 8.1 actually has no letters to it. So I believe when this was made, I believe that they meant to say 8.0K in terms of the citizenship challenges. If I understand it correctly. I'm still pretty new to this, so I don't know, but.
So, congratulations, you've won a prize. You've found in the resolution. So if we could have that read 8.0, and you are absolutely correct. That was our intent when we drafted.
Okay, thank you.
I would also like to point out that I believe that this went through our governing assembly. So it's not just governance.
So to make that, to keep it nice and tidy, and that we're doing it officially, we're going to look for unanimous consent to change that, which I think, I'm not sure if I'll see any objections to that. Please raise your hand if there's an objection to making the wonderful suggestion from one of our youth reps. Anything online, any objections? Nope, so we'll make that amendment by unanimous consent, and we'll carry on with our, and I've got our speaker at microphone number 1.
Tanshe, Linda Van Waringen from Region 7. I also agree with Gary Bigger on this. I'm totally against this resolution going forward. I think to propose the removal of Article 11 from the Citizenship Act, it prevents any citizen from challenging MNBC or any other person on their Métis citizenship. In this era of pretenders, why should individual Métis citizens not have the right to challenge the eligibility of someone claiming to be Métis? Approval of this amendment, in my opinion, will contribute to MNBC becoming more pan-Indigenous. And if approved, what option would there be for a challenge? Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker I have in line at number 4. Yep.
Hello, Anya McVeigh, Two Rivers, IT. So I just wanted a point of clarification here. I think it actually does follow up on something that the last speaker said as well. Is did I hear correctly that there was still an option for appeal to the Senate, not the registrar, with regards to citizenship when it was spoken before?
The reference to being able to appeal is for individuals who receive a not eligible for citizenship verdict. You are eligible to appeal that verdict.
Okay. Then I cannot speak for this. I'm not necessarily speaking against it, but I do think we need to consider that at this point in time, given recent history, this is a bad look. It's a bad look on us. Sorry.
Thank you. My next speaker that I have is, okay, we'll defer and we'll go to our speaker at microphone number 3, President Graham.
Thank you. June Graham, President of Alberni Clackowit. A quick note, is there an audit done on the citizenship department?
Yes, at the last at the last AGM, the citizens voted in Article 6, and in Article 6, it mentions that the citizenship registry should be audited, and so moving forward, we have operationalized that. And there are now audits within the citizenship registry. And we would like to point out that auditing is not a project, it's a process. So this will be ongoing for the health of our registry. This is something that will continue. And we are very proud of the fact that we are the first registry that is auditing because of this process instead of a crisis.
Thank you. I was just clarifying for my neighbor here. So what I wanted to say was I speak in favor. I had front row witness to what can happen with the way it's set up now, that as it is right now, that anyone can challenge your citizenship. And I'd like to believe going forward that we have a citizenship department that is believable and that like First Nations, they don't get their citizenship challenged. It is what it is. They carry that card. And I want us to be the same way, and I believe that we can be. And I want to remind people of all the money that it costs for the last citizenship challenge and how ridiculous it was. It was a waste of time, it was a waste of money, and I encourage everyone to not allow that to happen again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll next recognize Vice President Minot at microphone 2.
Walter Minot. I'm going to speak in favor of this resolution. We did have a challenge that happened to us in the past. And what it done is it questioned the integrity of the whole nation, not just of our registry. It tested the integrity of MNBC, our government, our people. And we can't allow that to happen ever again. We have to protect the integrity of who we are as a nation. We have to protect the integrity of our registry. We stand with our registry 100%. We believe it is still the #1 registry across Canada, and I've always preached that, and I will continue to preach that. And I think this does protect the privacy rights of our individual Métis citizens across BC and allows them to live as a Métis citizen peacefully without the interruption of certain individuals that don't believe that they have the right to hold that card. Our registry is second to none. And for us to be able to question that, an individual be able to question that registry, it questions the whole integrity of our nation. So this here resolution, I believe, will protect the integrity of our registry as well as our nation and as well as our citizens. So I'm in full favor of it.
Thank you. I'm going to turn next to number 4, Jan Ovens.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. Jan Ovens, Cochin Valley Métis. I speak in favor of this if I have interpreted it correctly. So I ask for you guys to let me know. We are not accepting everybody. We are following the MNC definition that we agreed to for decades. It will not make us pan-Indigenous. It is not opening doors. It is trusting the process that was fully explained to all of us yesterday and further on today. Am I correct? Thank you.
If I need to state it, she is fully correct.
Our next speaker hasn't gone yet, and I think it's Dakota, and I haven't cut your list.
I believe I'm the next speaker now.
Yes, you are, because they've already spoken before, so and you haven't yet. So go ahead.
Tanshe, Dakota. I think that's a dangerous precedent to set this. I think that this is one of the many checks and balances that we have as a nation that we should maintain. However, as presented in the resolution, I do support it to a degree. However, I think that it is best be amended. If you look actually at Article 11, this would also in some ways remove MNBC's rights to question Métis authority, as I understand it. And also by striking the Senate committee's ability to also challenge this, it sets a very, very slippery slope, where if we let someone in, it becomes very, very, very hard for them to get out. So, as someone who can't amend, unfortunately, I would recommend that someone potentially put forward an amendment or that we postpone this till another meeting, as I think there's a lot more to consider than just striking these different acts without fully considering the repercussions that could come from this. Thank you.
If we can just have a moment and just to confirm, we'll be right back. Thank you for that. So I just want to kind of articulate kind of some of the options we have based on the comments from our last commenter. Given that the intent or that portion of the resolution is to strike an entire article as opposed to setting out a specific wording that is there, he's correct that it's a very difficult thing to amend. The only way would be like amend or to strike everything but this, or so quite difficult. But did mention a comment or perhaps a proposal for postponement. And so the way that would work is if we proceed in that way, it would be to essentially, I don't like to use the word kill, but to end the discussion on the resolution without actually voting on it, versus another option would be to vote against it as it's currently provided. So I'm going to turn back to our previous speaker, just so I've got your intention if you're wishing to bring a motion to postpone, or if you're wanting to see how it plays out. And so I'll leave it for your intention and how you wish to suggest we proceed.
I think just as like one individual who has only been involved in Métis politics for roughly the past year, I don't think that's a decision that I should make. I think it should be a member of the MNGA who should put forward a motion to either postpone it or to let it sit on the floor for us all here in the Assembly to decide, because this isn't a decision that I should make. It's merely an observation that I had. I do believe postponement until the next AGM would be best. Or perhaps, if possible, we could move it forward to the General Assembly or like the MNGA to vote on and change it before coming back to it. Thank you.
Yeah, so decision for postponement would essentially take it off the table, but it wouldn't, just given our legislative process, it wouldn't put it back on the next AGM, for example. So it would have to be raised at the next, or one of the next MNGAs prior to the next AGM. So just so that we have that process. I did have, I'm just looking at the names of the people that have not yet spoken. I'll turn to them, and I do see the next speaker is a member of the MNGA. Not putting it on you, but our next speaker, I've got President Bremner at microphone number 3.
Joy Bremner, leader of the Mid-Island Métis Nation. And I didn't come to the mic to speak to this or to address that, so I think I would like simply some clarity on the reason I came forward. And if somebody else from the MNG wants to stand up and take that on, they're more than welcome. So anyway, what I was looking at on page 71, the evolution and reorganization of the Ministry of Citizenship, and we look at F, and changes definition to provincial citizenship card. Now that there is only one citizenship card and communities are not distributing their own cards, this word is not necessary in the definition. Now, I know the Mid-Island Métis Nation has never distributed citizenship cards or given citizenship cards. As a registered society, we give community cards. So really some clarity in terms of what this meaning wording in this line F there that resolved. I mean, I need some clarity because we will continue giving our community cards, which is our right. So I don't quite understand the wording in here and why that's there.
If I just have a moment, President Bremner.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, President Bremner, you're probably not going to like my answer.
Pardon me?
You're probably not going to like my answer. So that portion on page 71 is kind of an explanation chart for both resolutions 1 and 2. That portion that you've just referenced was more is in relation to resolution 1, which is already passed. So your comments with regards to resolution 2 are not related, if I can put it that way. It's certainly a question I would suggest you raise with our staff during a break, but I'm going to leave it at that.
And I think standing here, I will continue to say our community will not stop giving community cards.
Thank you. I next have our next speaker at microphone number 3.
Yes, hello, Jamie Keith, leader of the South Okanagan Métis. I'm wondering, I haven't read the act in its entirety, and I will also admit I didn't read the manual fully. But is there a deterrent anywhere in the act? So if a citizen were to challenge another citizen's citizenship, is there, like, say, a penalty, a fee of some sort? Do they have to bear any costs? Is there any measure saying that it's a very serious accusation and it's not taken lightly, and if proven wrong, there are risks? Anything to that effect at all?
I believe there's a portion with regards to the discretion of the registrar to put those costs involved on the person challenging, but I'll turn it over to our clerk, who may be able to explain that better.
That is referenced in the Citizenship Act, Article 11.5, which is under discussion right now. And it reads, the MNBC, on the recommendation of the Registrar, Citizenship Authority, may require the citizen, individual, or person instituting the challenge to pay the costs and other charges associated with a failed challenge in appropriate circumstances.
Okay,
So
thank
as
you.
you can appreciate, it gives a lot of discretion whether or not we want to, but it's an option.
Okay, thank you.
I next have Mr. Crozier at number 1.
Jeff Crozier, elected president of Rocky Mountain Métis. You know who I am. Sorry. So by removing Article 11, it's the way I read it and the way I see it, it simply protects citizens who are currently citizens. And it saves people, and I want to reference back, if I may, and if I'm out of order, please correct me. Our president was attacked 18 months ago or so, maybe 24 months ago, on this very thing. And so any challenges, I mean, once we're a citizen, and I know we have audits. I know the citizenship has gone through audits, and there's been a lot of but lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of stuff going on in regards to challenging citizens, and we've been finding, or the citizenship has found some discrepancies in lineage and ancestry and stuff, and that's, like, we need to be doing that. But if I'm correct in saying by removing Article 11, it's just protecting us, is that correct?
I think it would, the word protect, I think it's a evaluation. So some people certainly would prevent one citizen from challenging the citizenship of another citizen.
Right. And that's the key of this.
That's what this would do.
And we want to remove that option.
Well, that's the suggestion in the resolution.
Yes. So is there in this particular resolution a process that we can still, not specifically against each other, but we can appeal citizenship if it comes under question?
I'll defer, but my understanding is no. Like, the only current way in which a citizen can challenge the citizenship of another is through the current Article 11 in the Citizenship Act.
So sorry, I'm not being clear. Is there another, regardless, like, let's say we removed Article 11 and citizenship said, Jeff, you're not a citizen anymore because we have proof. Is there that's what I'm more getting at.
Yes, then there's the Senate process, I believe. There's an appeal mechanism from that decision. So if you are a citizen, Jeff, if you don't mind me using you as an example, and
yeah, no,
make sure that we've got that correct. Yes, thank you. So, yes, so if through the process of the audit or that it's determined, say, and then you're told, hey, Mr. Crozier, you are found not to be eligible and therefore the decision is to revoke your citizenship card, you have an appeal to the Senate of that decision.
Okay. So I am still in favor of this resolution.
Thank you. The next speaker, I'm looking to a speaker that has not yet gone at microphone number 3. Please go ahead.
Angel Robinson, Métis Nation, Greater Victoria. Just want to clarify. So what was just said is that, so the resolution removes the ability of citizens to be challenged on an individual basis by another individual. But audits will still happen, and that audit process could remove citizenship if it was found that there was a mistake made in the process. The citizen who had their citizenship taken away could challenge that decision through the Senate, so that still exists. And if, as Métis people as a whole, if our communities had concerns, they could bring it to their presidents to make a resolution to audit the system if need be, if there were substantial concerns. That would still be an option.
I'll defer to the, I'm not sure the process if there's a way to instigate an audit. So I'll defer to our staff. So if there is a concern that's raised by the community or whomever, I'm not sure what instigates the audit process. I'm not.
The audit process that's referenced in Article 6 is only the operational side of it. Your reference would be to the governance portion. Citizenship as the operation has no jurisdiction over that, so we would not be able to initiate based off of that stance.
So I think that I think I can put it very simply when it comes to the ability for somebody to appeal a decision. If you are an applicant and you apply and you are given a not eligible, you can appeal that to the Senate. If you apply and you are given citizenship, and then through the audit process, they say that there was a mistake made and you have your citizenship removed, you can appeal your removal. So in both cases, either citizenship saying no and you think it's yes, or citizenship saying yes and then we made a mistake and it's no. Either way, you have the ability to appeal to the Senate, who you have chosen to be the arbiters of these situations.
Thank you. I do note the time. We have some people that are standing that have gone for their second time. We'll go with our speaker here at number 1, and then we'll have no further other than the individual already standing, but I'll keep it to 1 minute for those that have already spoken. So yes, go ahead, microphone number 1.
Tanche Shelley McGregor, Executive Director for Métis Nation Columbia River Society. I'm just wondering, are there any procedures or policies in place for those who carry MNBC citizenship cards and beyond border cards for another provincial Métis government?
Procedure for what? Sorry?
Well, the MNC says that we are not allowed to hold 2 provincial Métis cards.
We will need to work with MNC in strengthening the connections between the registries as well for that communication. Okay.
So currently there is not a sharing agreement with the other nations. So although MNC does say that you cannot hold 1 citizenship card when you move, then you know, for BC, you need to live within BC to have membership with your citizenship with Métis Nation BC, and most of the other governing members are the same. So you must live within the province.
We do know there is another organization from a different province that is extending their citizenship for beyond borders. So we're just wondering for membership, you can, right now you can hold both cards. Is MNBC going to be, I guess, reneging the citizenship that you can only hold 1, or are you allowed to hold 2?
So although it's not written, we encourage having and holding only one citizenship card. We are the nation that provides our citizens with programs and services. We have the infrastructure, we're doing the work. These are our communities, and therefore you should only hold one citizenship card.
All right, thank you. So as I said, the final three speakers for a second time. So I'm going to keep it to a minute, please, but we start with Jaden at number 2.
Thank you for the introduction. Hi again, it's Jaden, and I'm the Region 6 Youth Representative. As we're finishing up this resolution, I just wanted to quickly offer my support of this resolution, and I want to quickly explain why I support it. I've talked to a lot of youth and people in my communities and stuff about Métis and what does being Métis mean. And a lot of what I hear actually is like bad press for Métis people, where it's like, oh, you can just be white and then just self-identify as Métis and get all these benefits. And I've heard that, I would say, probably more than 10 times from people, and it feels a bit aggressive, and I think there's this notion. And so I think that when people can attack people like our presidents and stuff, that goes on the news. People hear about it, and it just confirms their bias that they already have, that, oh, Métis people are fake, right? And so I think that we need to just abolish that kind of thinking, that kind of logic in our society, and that is why I stand behind this resolution.
Thank you, Jaden. And I'm going to say that was 2 seconds over. I'm just saying. I have Mr. Bigger at number 4.
Okay, Gary Bigger. I asked a question earlier of the register. How many people in the last 4 years have you removed from the registry? I understand you guys are doing audits and everything. Great. We finally got to get it right. But I know there's been names taken out of the registry. So there are issues. So, and for somebody not being able to protect this nation by bringing a name forward that somebody who's claiming to be Métis and is not, that is going to hurt us with the governments. We're trying to get funding for our kids and everything else, for school, education, and everything else, and we're trying to deal with Section 35 rights. And if we show that we're going to allow people in and then we can't challenge them, if I was the government, I wouldn't even be in the door. But I want that. How many people have you removed in the 4 years?
To the first portion of that question, we do still have the ability of protecting the nation through Article 6. It allows MNBC to review and audit said citizenships. So we do still have that protection. And as well, we stated as in our annual report that through the procedural audits that have currently taken place is 1.15% of the overall registry. That is 1.15% is the only portion that has been removed through the process of these audits.
Thank you, and I want to thank Mr. Bigger. It was the same 1 minute and 2 seconds as our other speaker. So, all right, and our final speaker at microphone number 4, please.
Hi, Anya McVeigh, Two Rivers Métis, and you're gonna hate me because I'm gonna say that I'd like to put forward a motion to have this postponed, as Dakota mentioned.
Thank you. For a motion to postpone indefinitely, we'll need a second. And I'll recognize this microphone number 3.
Hi, my name is Greg Sterling.
Sorry, Mr. Sterling, we've got their speaker in number 3. Yep, thank you.
Marie Zwingli from Two Rivers, and I'll second that motion.
Thank you. And sorry, what was the name? I missed the name for just so we can record it as the seconder.
Marie Zwingli.
Thank you.
So the motion that's been proposed is one that is called postpone indefinitely. Sometimes it's colloquially known as killing a motion. And the idea of this is that we are going to consider whether or not we want to consider this motion. It sounds like a bit of doublespeak, but what it allows the Assembly to do is it allows it to dispense of a resolution without actually taking a stance on a resolution. So we wouldn't be going on record saying that we were voting against this resolution. We're just saying we don't want to deal with it right now. So it's it is a debatable motion. If we want to, we can discuss whether or not we should postpone this, or if we should decide it right now. But then when the vote is called, you'd be voting in favor of postponing, opposed to postponing, which means that it would be considered at this Assembly.
I'll recognize number one.
So much. My name is Lisa Smith. I'm a member of the Métis Nation of Greater Victoria. I am against postponing this. I've heard so much irrelevant information and questions that don't even speak to this resolution. This isn't about community cards. This isn't about people being removed. That is under Article 6. And that is the audit that the registry performs that will protect the integrity of our registry. We've just performed the first audit, so there was, I think, below 2% of our citizens that were removed. For personal reasons, personal protection, of course, we can't say too much about that. But I've heard so many different things. This resolution is only about not allowing one Métis citizen to attack another Métis citizen, period. It's not about any audits, about anything. Our registry is run through the Indian INAC, through the Indian registry. So every time it's ran, we will catch the people who perhaps have First Nation status. So I believe in the integrity of our registry. The only purpose of this resolution is to not allow one citizen to attack another citizen through a registry appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that our comments at this stage were just on whether or not to postpone this motion or to proceed with the actual vote on the motion itself. But next I have, I have Steve Arnett online, and then I've got Mr. Allard. So. Thank you. I next have Mr. Allard, number 4.
Yeah, hi, David Allard, 7R Métis. I second the two I support the positions of the two previous speakers, President Smith and Mr. Arnott online here. I vigorously am against postponing this. As much as we all have a right to discuss these things, we have to balance that with the right of the Assembly to want to accomplish as much work as we can. We have to balance those rights. We have a lot of work to do. I'm against postponing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, number 3, Dakota.
Thank you, Tanshe Dakota. I think I do support that we do postpone indefinitely. While I do agree very fully and that we should not let every citizen be looking at one another with these stern eyes like, are you really Métis? Because we should trust each other. We have this such strong community that I'm so proud to be a part of. But I do think that there are many diplomatic concerns that if we do pass this, that there are other repercussions that could come on, and too much faith in authority can lead to different totalitarian effects like this. I do think this should be something that is further considered by the MNGA, considering the effects that striking Article 11 could and very well may have. And I do think that this should be a future resolution coming to our assembly here today. We are all very well-educated Métis individuals who have been facing this Métis-based racism for far too long. But I don't think that we are right now at a position where we can have 100% full faith in our registry. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Director Hooper at number 2.
Speak against postponing this motion. We had opportunity at our MNJ. We've had opportunities at our RGCs. We've had opportunities in our community to talk about this, to chat about this. I am definitely against postponing this. I believe in this motion, the first motion I put out, and I think we've had a lot of discussion on this, so it's important stuff, but I am against postponing it for the multiple reasons. Listen to the youth who have spoken. Some of our youth have spoken. Listen, sorry, I'll take that back. Listen to all of the youth. All of the youth have great voices. So I'm speaking in favor of my Region 6 youth, I'll put it that way, in his words. So Region 6. But please, and thank you to Dakota. I see a potential leader in him, and I'm glad of his presentation, so thank you.
Thank you. I next have Mr. Crozier.
I'm just going to call question.
I'm seeing some nodding heads of the other individuals I had. Are we okay, for those that are standing, to proceed with the question on the issue of postponement?
Not need, up to. It's not.
No, it's with the will of the assembly, we can dispense with the 30 minutes. And I don't know if that was on the main motion or each subsidiary motion, including something like a postponement.
It is on a motion or an agenda item. Postponement definitely is what's considered a subsidiary motion. If we needed 30 minutes on everything, I mean, I'll be here until Tuesday. I don't know if you will.
Thank you. So just, I'm looking at, because we do have other individuals that were wishing to speak, are we okay with motion, going to question, Mr. Lewis? And I'm sorry, I don't see behind, you're okay with, thank you. So we are going to a vote. I anticipate I wouldn't get unanimous consent, so we'll just go straight to a vote. This will be on the motion to postpone resolution, or postpone the vote on resolution number 2. So this is only to postpone. So if you are in favor of postponing this resolution, please vote in favor. That's A or 1. If you wish to oppose the postponement and continue with the actual vote on the resolution, then that would be B or 2. And if you wish to abstain, that's C3. And I'll turn it over to our clerk for the vote, and we'll hear once it's ready to go.
We have the thumbs up. Please cast your vote accordingly. I'm good to do this one a bit quicker, so. I know. So we'll leave it open for about 10 more seconds. And voting is now closed. Wait a minute. If I could get the in-room results when they are ready, please. I have now tabulated the results. If those could be disclosed. So 34 in favor, 120 opposed, 4 abstentions on the motion to postpone indefinitely.
Thank you. So the motion to postpone indefinitely fails. We are back to resolution number 2. I think we've had some great discussion. I think we're at a point where we can vote on that. So this is now on resolution 2 without amendment as presented. This requires a majority vote. If you are in favor of resolution 2 as presented, vote in favor with 1 or A, opposed to B, or abstain 3C. I'm not sure if it's open yet, but I'll turn it over to our clerk.
Voting is now open. Ten seconds, 10 more seconds. Voting is now closed. I'm fine with that too. Okay, before I display the results, could I please ask the assembly to hold any applause until I've read out the vote counts, just for anyone who has any visual impairments? So they are now ready for display. We have 126 votes in favor, 28 opposed, and 4 abstentions.
So I note the time. We are at our health break. Originally it was scheduled 10 minutes. Let's please keep it to 10 minutes. We still have a lot of work to do, and we have a hard end point at 4 o'clock today. So 10 minutes. We will start as soon as we have quorum, which I think will be very easy to get. So please be back. Hello?
Hello, everybody. Could we have everybody take their seats so we can begin? Okay, we're going to get started. We do have quorum. If you could please take your seats. Resolution. All right, we are going to begin with Resolution 3. In your annual report, it is on page 73, and I will pass it over to our clerk.
Resolution 3. The subject is increasing opportunities for voting. This will affect the Electoral Act. It was submitted by the MNBC via the Electoral Act Committee to the AGM clerk March 5th, 2023, and it requires a majority vote for approval. Whereas it is in the interests of the Métis Nation, British Columbia, and its citizens to have as many people vote as possible in elections. It is often difficult for people to access a ballot box, particularly in large rural areas of the province. Métis citizens expressed interest in having more opportunities to cast ballots in elections, and not all citizens are comfortable casting votes online or are able to vote online. Be it resolved that the Electoral Act be amended as follows. Strike the current Article 5.6 and replace with, the Chief Electoral Officer shall conduct elections by mail-in ballot and by online voting. An MNBC charter community may, via written request to the Chief Electoral Officer, request a secured ballot box to the community for the deposit of mail-in ballots. The ballot box will be secured through requirements provided in Article 18 of this Act. And the person appointed as returning officer pursuant to Section 14.1 of the MNBC Electoral Act shall be responsible for the security of the above noted ballot box. The ballot box shall be placed in an accessible location pursuant to the requirements provided in Article 18 of this Act. The returning officer shall send, by mail or courier, mail-in ballots deposited by electors in a secured ballot box in a community to the location and by the date designated by the Chief Electoral Officer. The Chief Electoral Officer shall provide the date that the secured ballot box will be closed and when the ballots must be sent to the Chief Electoral Officer. Insert the following definition as number 3.223. Mobile polling station means an advanced poll consisting of a team of election officials who visit communities and have two secure ballot boxes, one to collect mail-in ballots and one to collect ballots issued by the team to electors who have not previously received a mail-in ballot, and renumber the remaining definitions accordingly. Insert the following as A to Article 15.1. Advanced polls shall be open for at least 4 consecutive hours between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on the date that they are scheduled. Strike Article 26 and replace with the following. 26.1. The Chief Electoral Officer shall establish at least one advanced poll to accommodate electors. Such a poll may take place at a location of a community which has requested and received a secure ballot box, or maybe a mobile polling station, or both at the discretion of the Chief Electoral Officer. The dates, times, and locations of advanced polls will be scheduled to provide reasonable access to as many electors as possible. Advanced poll or polls shall be held on a day or days designated by the Chief Electoral Officer. The days and times of a mobile polling station in communities shall be included in the list of polling stations referenced in Section 16.4 of the MNBC Electoral Act. Any person on the list of electors and in possession of a mail ballot who attends an advance poll may mark their ballot and deposit it at that advance poll in the ballot box reserved for mail ballots. Any person who meets the criteria set out in Article 6 of this Act and has not received a mail-in ballot and has not voted online and signs a document witnessed by the Chief Electoral Officer or Returning Officer attesting that they have not voted before and will not vote again in the current election online, by mail, or in person may receive a ballot from the Chief Electoral Officer or Returning Officer at an advance poll conducted in their community or region where they are ordinarily resident and vote in person. 26.5, any person who has received a mail ballot and has spoiled it may exchange the spoiled ballot for a replacement ballot, or, if not in possession of the spoiled ballot, may receive a replacement ballot after signing a document witnessed by the Chief Electoral Officer or Returning Officer attesting that they have not voted before and will not vote again in the current election online, by mail, or in person at an advance poll conducted in their community or region where they are ordinarily resident and vote in person. The Chief Electoral Officer or Returning Officer shall ensure a log of replacement ballots is kept.
Do I have someone to move the motion?
Hi, Paulette Lamont, Region 7 Director. I so move.
Thanks, Paulette. Do I have a seconder?
Pixie Wells, Fraserville Métis Association. I second.
Thank you. For the purposes of this resolution, I'm going to be taking off my hat as co-chair and instead replacing it with one of my other hats. I am the Region 2 representative on the Electoral Act Committee. And so just to provide any background or questions in relation to this resolution and some of the other resolutions dealing with or that came out of the Electoral Act Committee. One of the things, this is I think the second AGM, perhaps the third even, where suggestions from the Electoral Act Committee have gone to the MNGA and then proceeding to the AGM. Our committee was struck I believe it was the first MNGA after the last election in order to look at some of the issues that we were hearing from community members and communities regarding issues around elections, ballots, and things like that. The committee has representatives from each region, the women's, youth, and the board as well. And so through that work, a number of priorities and issues were identified, different options considered and put forward. And so as an example, for some of the various options or issues, several options, as for example an A, B, and a C, if I can put it that way, were provided to the MNGA for consideration and a choice made by the leadership at the MNGA of what was believed to be the best choice, and that included even just leaving things as it were. So the resolutions that are going to be, obviously the one right now before us and the ones following, are the results of that process. And so I'm, as my role as one of the committee members, to provide some of the background. So with regards to this particular one of the significant issues seen by the committee was the lack of involvement, or the numbers of involvement and votes in our elections, and what steps, what things could be done to increase participation. We heard from communities. We had town halls at previous AGMs. And we tried to take that feedback so that we could address some of these. Part of this resolution actually came from, or at least the considerations from, I forget which community, Williams Lake community, I believe, providing some suggestions and things like ballot boxes. So we heard some communities and community members wishing to have a physical ballot or a ballot box in the community. Other communities we're hearing, given that those places would be manned by or staffed by volunteers, and there's already enough on community leaders' plates to now have to do that, so that they didn't want it. So there was a diversity in need, a diversity in want from community to community and region to region. And so we've tried to come up with some different options that, or tools that would allow for a greater involvement and participation in the voting process, and which would also respect the desires and the wishes and the capacity of the various communities in order to do that. So with regards to this particular resolution, you'll see mandating the mail-in and online ballot portion. So those would be automatic, but having an opportunity for a request from a community to have a in-person ballot box, if that was something that they chose, or other options, including what's they're defined as a mobile polling station, where we would have electoral staff, so not community members, but essentially traveling different regions and maybe hitting or maybe a hub, however it might be discussed and actually implemented, so that there is that option as well to do that. Obviously, some of the issues we heard were we had, I believe it was the strike and the floods, you know, that disrupted mail and things like that. So the intent is to increase the participation or the options for participation, and respecting some of the comments and things that we've heard from the community. So that's, I think, reflected in what the committee put forward and what was amended or decided by the MNGA and is now for the AGM for consideration. So if there's any questions later, I can certainly help address, but hopefully it's pretty straight and self-explanatory.
Paulette?
Great, thank you very much. I mean, I think that this makes so much common sense, having as many opportunities for our citizens across BC as possible. I have lived in this province for 30 years, and I can recall 2 elections that took place at MNBC that I didn't have the proper I didn't get any mail-in ballots, even though I've lived at the same address for 30 years. So there's been a couple of elections that I have not participated in. And, you know, being from the northeastern part of BC, I mean, we are remote. And I think having as many options for our citizens in Region 7 is a win-win for the entire province. And this past election, I mean, I had a lot of elders say that they couldn't get, you know, they couldn't go online to vote. So having a potential polling station in our community just makes common sense. So this I agree with 100%. Thank you.
Pixie?
Thanks, Tonse, everybody. I am in support of this. I'm in support of this motion for exactly the same reasons that Director Paulette Flamont had spoken about, is that giving our citizens as many options as possible to be able to come out and vote, I think, is making a stronger nation and allowing our people to speak when they need to. So thank you.
I'll invite the speaker at microphone 2.
Thank you, Vince Van Oringen. So obviously more opportunity to voting is great. Definitely for more opportunities, but I feel there's a lot to this resolution that is left in question, and you know, regarding to some things that have been brought forth to me. Having 4 options of voting online. Oh, wait, first, to President Allard, I'll keep this to 2 minutes for my first question. My apologies. But having 4 options on voting, mailing, mobile, and advance will prove challenging to manage the electoral process and could potentially lead to election fraud, electoral fraud. So I guess a question from people, and it can be brought up, is how is that going to be monitored with a ballot box within a polling station, stuff like that, right? If it's a ballot box being by volunteers, concerning. A polling station being by electoral people, a little more secure. Also, that it'd be difficult, if not impossible, for scrutineers to monitor each of the voting methods on behalf of their candidates. So for those electors in there, how are they going to be able to monitor and feel that that's being taken care of? And just one comment, you know, the previous chief electoral officer, One Feather, you know, they're not really capable of overseeing such a process, right? From looking at some articles and stuff, not only were questions raised about certain aspects of the election in 2020, but they also failed to mail out more than 10,000 ballots to eligible voters in MNO, the vote in December 2022. So I guess who would that be looking at handling those processes? Thank you.
Sorry? So I'll address a couple of those. With regards to the scrutineering, as one example, obviously it would be the same process with regards to the scrutineering for online and ballots. So that obviously we don't have scrutineers watching the inputting of those ballots, but certainly the counting of the ballots, which was, and certainly the mail-in ballots, which did occur, and there were scrutineers present at the last general election. And with regards to the capability of one failure, perhaps I'll turn that over to Mr. Beaker.
And I also feel that you, oh yes, it came to me. So you had two questions, one of which of who would be overseeing either the, what would be the drop-in mail-in box in the community, and then for the mobile polling station, who would be administering that. For the drop box for mail ballots, it would be a secure drop box that would be secured by the chief electoral officer and then provided for the community for them to essentially drop their mail-in ballot, you know, as you sign and all that, in a repository to confirm receipt in time to be counted, because there were some questions about that. If we were having the mobile polling station, that would be administrated by chief electoral officer and their staff. So whenever you have more staff and you have more actions, there are going to be more costs to the election, of course, but at the same time, you're also giving more opportunities. As for the comments made about we'll call them the previous chief electoral officer, I'll let those stay, except to say that every election cycle, so every general election, the MNGA not only sets election date, but they also set who the chief electoral officer will be for that election. We will be putting out a request for proposals for the 2024 MNBC election very soon to any interested parties, with the requirements and any new requirements that are in the Electoral Act as to what we expect in the elections. These RFPs will be shortlisted and then provided to the MNGA to decide who your electoral officer is.
Right, this, Dave, did you want to? Okay. Microphone 1, please.
Linda Van Weringen, Region 7. I agree with Paulette said and what Vincent said about having all these options. I think it's a great idea. We do need to get more people out to the polling stations and stuff. However, my big concern is the cost. I mean, in 2016, the 2016 election, I believe they spent over $60,000, and that was just for mail-in ballots. So what is the cost going to be on this if we've got mobile units going out to different communities? Ballot boxes aren't that big. I don't see a huge expense for that, but I'm really concerned about the mobile cost of the mobile going around, because like you say, you've got to pay, you know, transportation going around, and I'd really like to know what you would actually think what the cost of all of this would come to. Because if it costs $60,000 just for mail-in ballots, what's it going to cost for online ballot boxes and the mobile units? Thank you.
So I can give some rough guesstimates of costs. We did approach our former chief electoral officer and said, if this was a situation, can you give us a back of an envelope idea of what it would cost? I can say that for the last two by-elections that the last by-election that we had where we sent a mail ballot to all electors, the cost is now close to about $80,000 for that. The good news is that online voting is incredibly cheap. Depending on how many regions we have the mobile polling station, how long they are, and how many communities they go to, that could range up to the high water mark of, I think it was 3 communities in each region. So that would be 21 communities getting a mobile polling station for the 4 hours. That would be about $250,000. That would be what I would consider to be a high water mark for the mobile polling station part. Probably more practically, we're looking at about $150,000.
And that, again, part of that is based on the desire of, so it'd be on request. So it's not a mandatory mobile polling station. So there's community input, and that's how it kind of gets requested.
Speaker at microphone 4, please.
My name is Mark DeBoard. I'm president of the Two Rivers here in Kamloops and the surrounding areas. Just to kind of go on the back of the previous comment and how they didn't receive a ballot, and then they were hoping that this ballot box would solve that problem. Just a clarity factor, will these mobile people have blank ballots to provide people, or are they still expected to have their original mail, which if they never got it, won't solve anything?
That's a great question. So the mobile polling station option is going to have actually two ballot boxes available. One is the drop box for your completed mail ballot, so that you can ensure that it is received by the chief electoral officer and to be counted. And then if somebody wants to be handed a ballot and vote much the way that you do in a provincial or federal election, they will have a ballot available, or ballots available, because some people, have multiple positions they will vote for. They will have them available, but those will only be issued through the chief electoral officer and their staff.
The ballot, they're at the mobile station to make that call live? Okay.
Yes, the mobile polling station will be administered by the chief electoral officer or their staff only.
Perfect, thank you.
Jan, please. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, Jan Ovens, Cowichan Valley Métis. I speak strongly in favor of this. The purpose is to get more people to vote, to make it easy for them to vote. And I really appreciate that money came up, but I'm going to throw that out in my mind, because democracy is not cheap, nor is it timely. It takes process. And we have to follow it, and we have to open it up. Thank you.
Speaker at microphone 2, please.
Tansei, Barbara, Two Rivers Métis Society. I'm the elder rep. I speak for our elders. Excuse me. I think in these days, thank you. I think in these days of everything costing more, would it not be more cost efficient to engage in mail that is like registered, rather than sending people all over the province? Us elders, we don't necessarily have online capabilities, but we like to receive mail. I have some members who haven't received mail from previous boards and are ecstatic that they not only receive mail now, but not being online, I've taken it upon myself to physically phone people and advise them of the upcoming events and invite them to our elders gathering and participate in the community. I think keeping this link open and using the resources that we have by using Canada Post as an option to ensure that our ballots are received would be much more well-spent money. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you for that. And that's true, and that's something we heard in our trying to gather information and feedback from communities. And so that is one of the things that is here is, so mail-in ballots will be mandatory as one of the options, as will online. And then the third, the mobile or the ballot boxes are more discretionary upon request, but the mail will be an automatic thing. So, and that's the hope, that we don't have those hiccups, and that everyone whose mail is updated, so that if MNBC has the mailing address on those, that everyone on the citizenship who's entitled to vote or to cast a ballot will receive that. So.
Go ahead.
5, Rainy Gervais, Region 5. I speak strongly in favor of this motion. As Minister of Elders, I know what the hardships that the elders go through in elections, especially if they live in the outskirts and stuff. And I think it would be really, really easy, taking the hardships away. But the electoral act put this together really good. And I think it goes through a lot of stuff, and I think it's what we need. Thank you.
We have an online speaker coming up next. Geraldine Stevens. Go ahead. Go ahead, Geraldine. Okay, we will come back. Betty Ann, please, at mic 4.
Betty Ann McDonnell, leader of the Nicola Valley District Métis. I too would like to speak very much in favor of this. I did not receive a ballot for women's rep in the last election. Those mail-in ballots are only as good as the people stuffing them and mailing them out to us. Number 2, trying to help elders vote online because they shared the same email address. I had to, I believe it was Lauren that helped me create an address for the second person. It was just, as elders, really chaotic. So having that choice within our community would help greatly. Merci.
All right, we'll go back to Geraldine online. Go ahead, please. Geraldine, could you try to unmute yourself? Geraldine, we can't hear you, so if you could type your question into the chat and then we will read it out from this end. Thank you. Go ahead, mic 2.
Hi, Sean Devon, Provincial Youth Chair. I'm speaking in favor of this motion. We've heard a lot about previous people not receiving their ballots. We hear concerns about ballots. We have our concerns about ballots, and they're completely valid. I think that's why part of the reason why this mobile polling station was brought up is in case you don't receive it and you aren't able to use the internet to do electronic voting, there is still this other option where you can physically grab the ballot from the place and immediately put it in. So it's to help address that barrier, and that's why I'm speaking in favor of this. Thank you.
Vince Van Meringen. So just a comment. Like Sean just pointed out in the previous speaker, people not receiving ballots, not getting ballots, missing ballots in there, which is why I brought up my point about our past chief election officer. So I think to the presidents in the room, when the time comes to pick that individual that is doing our electoral, you guys really need to look at what the last couple elections have been, how many people have lost their ballots. I think a polling station is great, but we have to look at who's going to operate it, right? That's a big concern.
Thank you, and I just wanted to make one comment from what I heard Minister Davern say with regards to if you're not receiving one in the election or choosing the other option. Just to be noted, the way it's set out, it would be a community that makes the request, not an individual. So anyone watching and hearing it, that's where that communication with your community leadership is going to be very important. If you're having issues to, liaise with your community, and that's where the request would come as it's written here. So I just wanted to highlight that just so that individuals are aware of that.
Okay, we'll go to mic number 3, followed by 1, and then 4. Thank you.
I was going to mention after the person on the computer spoke, I was going to call question.
We do have the online question.
So Geraldine online asking, how could we know there will be no influences at the polling stations?
If there's a polling station, if that's what's taking place, it would have to follow the requirements that's already set out in the Electoral Act. You'll note that, I'm just trying to see where the example is. So for example, Part A, the ballot box will be secured through the requirements provided for in Article 18 of this Act. So our Act already had balances and checks and requirements for in-person polling, as that had been the expectation back when it was initially done. So there are those would be the considerations and safety mechanisms that are previously already set out within the Electoral Act that would be expected to be followed by the when a ballot box is within a community or the mobile ballot box. That would include things like conflicts and things like that. So you can turn, I believe it's, what page is, I'll turn it to Mr. Beaker.
So there are some restrictions where a polling station can be already in the Electoral Act. Article 16.6 says that, and I'm going to read these out of order, no polling station may be located in the following places: a premises in which a candidate has an interest, or a premises where alcohol or spirits are served. And then also for influencing as well, and I would have to find the exact article in the Electoral Act, but candidates are not allowed to be at a polling station unless they are casting their vote. They can come in, they can cast their vote. Other than that, they cannot be present at a polling station.
Okay, so question was called, but we will go, Greg, you were already standing at mic 4, and then one more. Okay, thank you.
Greg Stanwood, North Fraser Métis Association. I am totally in favor of this motion, but I'd also like to say that I think you should notify people that the ballots are going out, mail out via email, notifying everybody that they're out. Checks and sums that if they don't receive them by a certain date, then they can either call in or have some sort of they can go to a polling station or that, but at least they are identified that the vote is out. Because one time the ballots were sent out, I never received it, and then the election was over and I got the ballot in the mail, right? So I would like to, find out that at least when they're being sent out, and I think that would be a good idea. Thank you.
Comment was basically what he was asking about that, because what happens, I don't know how far in advance the ballots do get sent out, and I think what he had suggested, an email going out notifying people that ballots have been sent out, and you should expect them within the next 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever, so that people, like he said, if they don't receive them, they can contact and whoever the electoral office is or whatever and say, look, we didn't receive our ballots, what's our options here? That was it. So I follow through with question now.
All right, we are going to go to a vote. Question's been called. Please get your voting devices out. All right, so just a reminder, 1A is in favor, 2B is oppose, and 3C is abstain.
Voting is now open. Please cast your votes. 10-second warning. Please cast your vote if you have not done so. Voting is now closed. The final results are ready. We have 126 in favor, 13 opposed, 7 abstentions.
Okay, we're going to move right along here. Before we move into Resolution 4, I just have to say, Kate, those babies, it's their first AGM. It's good to hear them in the back there weighing in. Resolution 4 is on page 76, if you'd like to follow along, and I'm going to pass it on to our clerk.
Resolution 4, subject electoral outreach and education. This affects the Electoral Act. It was submitted by the MNBC via the Electoral Act Committee to the AGM clerk June 4th, 2023, and will require a majority vote to adopt. Whereas historically, only about 10% of Métis have voted in past elections in British Columbia. For many people, voting can be a confusing and intimidating experience, and democratic best practices include outreach to electors to inform them of when, where, and how to vote, along with the candidates who are running to represent their interests. Be it resolved that the following changes be made to the Electoral Act. In Article 5.2, strike the word may and insert shall in its place. Add the following to the end of Article 5.2a. Activities may include but are not limited to working with MNBC staff to develop and distribute a voter's guide for electors that explains in plain language when, where, and how to vote. Newspaper advertisements in local papers where there is a charter community, if available and subject to funding. Social media, including the purchase of ads. Direct mail and email notices to electors. Arranging for virtual town hall meetings, either individually in each region or in combination with other regions, for provincial and regional candidates to respond to questions and comments from electors. Working with MNBC committees and charter communities to provide outreach opportunities in their communities, especially youth outreach. Any other opportunities that may be requested by a charter community or region or considered by the Chief Electoral Officer to be appropriate for all of or for a specific region or community. Add the following as a new Article 5.2b and renumber existing 5.2b to 5.2c. The Chief Electoral Officer shall, as much as reasonably possible in as many outreach activities as possible, include information regarding the positions available for election, a description of responsibilities and time commitments. Insert the following in Section 8.1 as a new Part B. The positions available for election, including a description of responsibilities and time commitment, and renumber the remaining subsections in 8.1 accordingly.
Thank you. Do I have a mover for this resolution?
Yes, David Allers, Amanar, Métis. I move.
Thank you, Dave. And a seconder?
Linda Van Waringen, Region 7, I second.
Thank you, Linda. Dave?
Yeah, I support this. I was part of the Electoral Act Committee that drafted this. One reason I support this is based on Section D. If we can highlight that, let's take a hypothetical. Let's say next year I decide I want to join the board and I want to run. I would like to know what I'm signing up to. I think that's pretty obvious. I wouldn't want to be in a position where I'm elected and I realize, well, gee, I'm not getting enough money. Let's see if I can't vote myself a few raises. So we need these things cleared out. I mean, 4 years has gone by, close to it. There's a transition period. We're adapting to new reality, and it's being reflected. with increases in wages for these positions, that's all fine. But we need clarity on the time commitments, the responsibilities, and a form of accountability as well. If we're not sure, if anyone's not sure what they sign up for running for these very important positions, and they figure out, well, it's too much of a time commitment, they don't show up for meetings and so on and so forth, that's not fair to the nation. It's not fair to themselves either, so we have to know beforehand. So I support this, and hopefully it will pass. I support it. Thank you.
Linda, would you like to follow up?
I also see no issues with this resolution, and I'll support it.
Any other questions?
Steve Arnett online.
Oh, we've got one online. Steve Arnett. Steve Arnett is online. Yep. Thank you. We will go to mic 2, followed by Pixie and then Sarah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Vince Van Waringen, Region 7. So just clarity, I guess the proposed changes include requirement for the Chief Electoral Officer to engage in voter education outreach activities for elections. Is kind of what I'm getting from all of these. Definitely a great thing to do. A couple questions that came up is kind of who would be overseeing the activities, obviously our CEO, but would there be anybody else helping with those activities to make sure they're being spread around for all electors? You know, one thing that was brought to me was that during the general election of 2020, there were complaints about some mail-outs from the previous Chief Electoral Officer and having ballots and stuff in some and not in others. So what can be provided on making sure that you know, again, you can't speak on behalf of the future Chief Electoral Officer, but should that happen, nothing came of that previously. How can MNBC speak on behalf of that? Thank you.
So, so 2 points. One is you were referring to an allegation that was brought to the Senate that was deemed to be unfounded. The second thing is, again, we will be putting into the request for proposals for chief electoral officers to say that you have some latitude to do more advertising with the election. We'll see what their response is. But if you're talking about who would be the main contact point with the chief electoral officer around some of these things, I don't want to necessarily be too clairvoyant in the future, but I think it's me.
Go ahead, Pixie.
Pixie Wells, President of Fraserville Métis Association. I know a lot of work went into this resolution, so I just want to say that we are in support of this motion because it's very clear that the diverse needs and the participation and understanding that our citizens have expressed in the last few elections have been very carefully taken into consideration in this resolution. Voter turnout is not as high as we'd like it to be, and it is as high as it needs to be, and it would be unkind to assume that it is always due to empathy.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Sarah Laszlo, Region 2, last name's Luthier and Stavely. I have a question. I did see written in there, subject to possible financial support. As a woman, there is already no funding for women in the Métis Nation, or hardly none. And there is funding being put towards many other things, including raises. There is no money for the Two-Spirit, LGBTQ, QIA, vulnerable, the weak, the elderly. How am I as a woman going to be funded to become a political leader for my people?
So thank you for your question and excellent points. The proposed changes have the, if available and subject to funding, specifies for newspaper advertisements. And that's for two reasons. One is newspapers are dying off. There might not be a newspaper available in a local community. And second of all, purchasing ads in newspapers is actually quite costly compared to the other engagement that we have proposed in this resolution, which we didn't say them to be subject to funding because funding is not a concern for those other ways to outreach, right? For the newspaper advertising, because that would actually be quite a cost and we might not be able to find a newspaper to do it, it was considered to be prudent to say it for that particular point. But direct mail and email notice to electors, we already do some direct mail notice in the Electoral Act already. Email notices are very cheap. Social media ad buying is also relatively cheap compared to newspapers as well. So I do understand that subject to funding, and there is a finite amount of funding out there. It applies to that particular one because that one could, if we mandate it, could be quite a financial commitment in running an election. I hope that answers your question.
That there will always be a need for newspapers. I read them. I only began using social media last year. So it's not something I believe that all of our elders will stop using. So how are they going to be reached? Thank you. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. All right, we're going to take this to a vote. Oh, sorry, Pixie?
I was just going to take a question here.
Okay, I think Pixie was up first. We've got a question called. Oh. Okay, so please get your voting devices out. Just a reminder, A, in favor, B, oppose, and C, abstain.
Voting is live. Please cast your vote accordingly.
They're asking to have the motion read.
We already started voting. Ten seconds. 10 seconds left.
We're going to let the elders speak at mic 2.
Thank you. Barb Rhodes, Elder Rep, Two Rivers. I was just wondering with this online advertising, I hear in the news about Facebook limiting news and stuff for Canadian content. Would this fall within those parameters where we wouldn't be able to do that? I don't know enough about it, but it just crossed my mind. Thank you.
No, it won't apply because that only applies to Canadian news sources, so newspapers or news companies, not necessarily content like delivered or provided by a Canadian organization. So that wouldn't be caught or captured. Yeah.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to vote in the room? Okay, I guess we can declare voting closed then. The final tally is compiled. We have 128 in favor, 9 opposed, 7 abstentions.
Okay, we're moving right along to Resolution 5, found on page 78 in your book, and I will pass it over to the clerk.
Resolution number 5, subject Electoral Act housekeeping amendments. Unsurprisingly, the legislation affected is the Electoral Act, submitted by the MNGA via the Electoral Act Committee to the AGM clerk June 4th, 2023, and will require a majority vote for adoption. Whereas legislative provisions require vigilant review to ensure that they are correctly stated, and in the event an error or inconsistency is discovered, the error must be rectified as a housekeeping matter. Be it resolved that the MNBC Electoral Act be amended as follows. Strike the words returning clerk in existing section 14.1F and insert returning officer in their place. Renumber parts C to F of Article 14.1 so that their subsections of Part B as follows. The following persons shall not be appointed as either a returning officer or a poll clerk. A person who is a spouse, child, brother, sister, mother, father, common law partner, or individual who lives with any candidate. A member of the Métis Nation British Columbia Senate. An individual who is a candidate or a candidate's representative. Or a person who is a spouse, child, brother, sister, mother, father, common law partner, or individual who lives with either a returning officer or poll clerk shall not be appointed for the same polling station location. In Article 31.2, strike the second instance of the word in and insert is in its place so that 31.2 will read, an individual other than an election officer must not act to assist more than one elector in an election to mark a ballot unless the individual is assisting more than one member of their family. And that's it.
All right, we're going to have a hard stop at 4, so I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder, and we will put the discussion to tomorrow's day of business.
Hello. Hi, Jaden Rogers, Region 6 Youth Representative, and I would like to move this motion to the floor.
From Sosma and Penticton, I would like to second.
Sorry, could you repeat your name?
Greta Henning.
Thank you. We probably have time for one question to my beautiful colleague at the back.
Cheryl Dodman from Kelowna Métis Association and Region 3 Women's Rep. I would like to speak in favor of this motion as one of the fellow people working through these things on the Electoral Act Committee. I think we've done a really good job, and I want to say thank you to all that worked with me on that.
Pixie, you're getting in under the wire. Go ahead.
Pixie Wells, President of the Fraser Valley Métis Association. I'd just like to speak in support of this motion. I think it's just housekeeping, clean housekeeping. So thank you.
Is there any other individuals with, okay, go ahead, Angel.
Hello. Just a quick comment. Just wanted to point out that the language in the act is very gendered, so it doesn't say, like it says, brother, sister, mother, father, so it's exclusive of gender diverse people. Not suggesting any changes today, just pointing that out as something that should be looked at the future across the board. Thanks.
Thank you, Angel. All right, let's take it to a vote. See if we can fit this in under the wire. It's 3:56. Sit down, Dean. You're out of order. I've been waiting all day to do that. All right, just a reminder, 1A in favor, B oppose, and C is abstain.
Voting is now live. Please cast your vote accordingly.
He's trying to throw me and throw it.
Yep. Ten seconds, please cast your vote. Polling is now closed. We have the final tally ready. 132 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 abstention.
So I'll put my co-chair hat back on. We have a couple announcements before we go, but then we are to get our butts out of here, and they're going to get it ready for the banquet later this evening. So thank you everyone for your patience, your discussion, your decorum. I appreciate it, and I'll turn it over to our clerk with a couple of quick announcements.
All right, thank you very much. We have 3 quick announcements. Number 1, the banquet is going to commence at 6:30 here. So come back here, 6:30. Second of all, there is going to be an announcement for the MNBC Post-Secondary Institute presentation tomorrow when we start at 8:30. And third, for people who are staying at hotels here, when we come back tomorrow, I'm just pulling up the message. For everyone who needs to check out of their hotels tomorrow, and I think most of us are going to have to check out from our hotels before our estimated adjournment time at noon, there will be luggage storage here at TRU. So you can bring your luggage here. You can contact somebody at Community Services or at the desks there, and we will have a secure place to store your luggage.
All right.
Okay.
See you tomorrow at 8:30 for meetings, but later tonight for fun.